Before this video starts, I'd like to make a quick note. This is not my official World War II video. This is a very quick version of it. The official one will hopefully come out later. Probably will be a while, but still. This really is going to be more of a summary than any of the other videos have been in the past. Almost more of a review. I'll explain why in the description if you really care. So, anyway, without further ado, here we go. World War II officially started on September 1st, 1939, when Germany invaded Poland. Technically, China and Japan had been in war since 1937, but that's often considered a separate war, Sino-Japanese War. Hitler made a non-aggression pact with Stalin, so the Soviets helped invade Poland too. Britain and France were tired of Germany invading countries, so they declared war on Nazis. The first few months were called the Phony War, as not much happened aside from some naval combat in the Atlantic. In 1940, Germany turned around and invaded Western Europe. France surrendered in June, and the Allied forces were miraculously evacuated at Dunkirk. Germany spent the next few months relentlessly bombing Great Britain. It's the Battle of Britain. British ultimately won the RAF. In the Pacific, Japan began rapidly expanding, taking over Indochina and various Pacific islands. On December 7th, 1941, the day that will live in infamy, Japanese forces ambushed Pearl Harbor, hoping to prevent American intervention. With America now in the war, the Japanese only had a limited time before the tides turned. By June of 1942, the Japanese Empire began shrinking with losses at Midway and the Coral Sea. On June 22, 1941, Germany invaded the Soviet Union in Operation Barbarossa. The Germans pushed pretty far into Eastern Europe until the advance was reversed at Stalingrad in late 1942. The Germans tried to counter the Red Army's advancement with an attack at Kursk, which ended up being the largest tank battle, but ultimately failed. The Soviet city of Leningrad held off a relentless siege by German forces, finally ending after 2 years. 1942 also saw Operation Torch, the Allied invasion in North Africa. Vichy French forces quickly surrendered. At the Battle of El Alamein, British General Bernard Montgomery defeated the Desert Fox Erwin Rommel. George Patton was another important general in this, and all three of those would go on to be very important in Europe later on. Allied forces pushed the Germans and Italians out of Africa, using it as a staging ground for invading southern Europe. Sicily was the obvious first target, but the Balkans were soon to follow. Italy surrendered in October of 1943, but German troops stayed in the country to defend it for the Axis powers. In early 1944, Allied forces fought a 5-month battle at Monte Cassino, finally pushing through to Rome. On June 6, 1944, the Allies led a massive amphibious landing at Normandy Beach. The D-Day invasion led to a long series of battles that would end up being the liberation of France by the fall. Operation Market Garden saw a failed attempt at landing paratroopers in Axis-held Netherlands. Winter of 1944 was the worst in decades. Germans used the bitter cold to launch a final counterattack in the Ardennes at the Battle of the Bulge. The Allies did win and pushed away their German forces across the Rhine. By spring of 1945, American and British forces from the west and Soviet forces from the east had successfully defeated Germany, and on May 8, 1945, the Nazis surrendered. In the Pacific, America followed a campaign of hopping from island to island, starting with islands like Guadalcanal and Tarawa. In 1945, Okinawa and Iwo Jima saw some of the heaviest American and Japanese casualties. On August 6, 1945, the Enola Gay dropped an atomic bomb on the Japanese city of Hiroshima. On August 9th, the Boxcar dropped another on Nagasaki. After these devastating attacks, Japan was finally defeated. On September 2, 1945, 6 years and 1 day after the war began, the Empire of Japan officially surrendered. The overall death toll of the war is estimated to be about 70 million. Of that, about 45 million were civilians. World War II was a devastating conflict, but very important nonetheless. It crushed the fascist and Nazi ideologies, it allowed communism to spread through Eastern Europe and Asia, and led directly to the Cold War. It also resulted in the formation of the United Nations in hopes to prevent another war, and it directly led to the collapse of world empires and brought America into a new global age as a superpower. So, anyway, I hope that covered World War II quickly but thoroughly enough. So, anyway, that's all for this video. I want to hear feedback. Did you enjoy this type? Do you prefer the more in-depth and detailed videos I usually do that are a little longer? Let me know. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video, so if you did, be sure to like and subscribe. This is Matthew, and I hope I will see you next time.
Goodbye, goodbye, wipe a tear, baby, tear from your eye. Though it's hard to part, I know, I'll be equal to death to go. Don't cry, don't sigh, there's a silver lining in the sky.